Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for this micro teaching on how to structure an essay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. The learning objectives for today's class are going to be able to identify the different components of an essay, to organize ideas using a clear essay structure, use logical connectors to link ideas, and to improve academic tone and clarity. But first of all, what is an essay? Perhaps you remember from last courses that an essay is an academic text that characterizes for having a structure, a specific structure. They are usually organized in paragraph, and each paragraph has a function, right? For example, here we have an essay. The title is The Importance of Well-Being in Modern Life. And you have an introduction in the first paragraph, two body paragraphs, but you could also have 3 or 4 according to the quantity of ideas you want to communicate. And lastly, you have a conclusion, right? So let's try and figure out why is the introduction important. In the introduction, the writer usually presents the topic and the thesis statement. What is important about a thesis statement? It informs what the writer is going to talk about in the rest of the text, and it usually tells you if the writer is in favor of something or against something, or what he thinks about a specific topic. This essay will discuss the importance of healthy habits and social relationships in promoting overall well-being. That is the thesis of this essay. And why is it important? Because it already tells you that for this writer, the following paragraphs are going to be about healthy habits and social relationships. In body paragraphs, you usually write one idea and you develop that idea giving examples and giving explanations. So if you have more ideas, you'll have more body paragraphs. And in your conclusion, you are going to summarize the key ideas and you usually restate the main point. For example, in this case, in this conclusion, this last sentence, therefore, promoting well-being should be a priority for individuals and society as a whole, shows you that they are closing the idea stated in the introduction. What do you think the words in yellow are?
Connectors or
Oh, today we are going to focus only in the introduction, right?
Okay.
So imagine that I'm giving you this task. You have to write for your classmates and your professor the following essay. What are the most important factors for maintaining well-being in university life? So the first thing you have to know is that when you write anything you want to write, the writing is a process. You have to plan, first of all, then you have to do your first draft, then you revise the original draft, you edit the draft, and you rewrite perhaps the final text. And after you rewrite, you usually publish it or you submit it to your professor. So we are going to focus in the planning step. First of all, what would you do if I gave you that question? What are the most important factors for maintaining well-being in university life? How do you start writing about this essay?
Well, I'd say that both alimentation and social life, and maybe even sport, playing sport.
Perfect.
I mean,
So,
actually, I don't know if I'd start with that. I'd say that I'd firstly I'd state the I don't know the word for, but like the problems that
thesis?
arise while being in university life. So you have to attend some quantity of hours during the day. You have to study after, and that is stressful. So, and after that, I connect with some paragraph talking about well, social life, sport, and alimentation.
Perfect.
So you just so you can balance all that university life takes away from you.
Okay, yeah, that's important. You are going to like give a background of the situation being a university
Exactly.
student.
That's right.
And then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
would put all the factors you consider important. Okay, perfect.
Yes, you could also do some research in case you are not not so wise on the topic, or you don't have so much knowledge. You can also do some research first.
Perfect. So you are going to gather ideas, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to stop sharing, but I'm going to write here if you want to tell me your ideas. Pablo said something about alimentation. We can put food
Alimentation and sleep.
and sleep. Those are important factors for keeping well-being, right? What else can you think? What else is important?
Sports.
Sports.
Anything that just makes you like reset your brain, anything you like, and because if you just
Resetting.
have to do something you don't like, well, not so cool.
Brain activity.
Social
Okay.
life.
Social life.
Activity.
Perfect.
A cat, maybe.
Having a cat, a pet. Perfect.
Yeah. And I believe that if you learn how to manage your anxiety, and no, manage, no, I don't know how to say it.
Anxiety management.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a lot of ideas. Perfect. So after we have ideas, the first thing that we can do is to organize them. For each of you, you can only think, and you don't need to tell me, which ideas are you going to use? Because in this essay, for example, we're going to only write about 2 factors. So you can choose the factors that are most important for you, in your opinion, right? And as we don't have that much time to finish an essay, this is so short.
Okay.
We are going to focus on an introduction today. And there are some other questions that you have to ask yourself. For example, what will be your main idea or your thesis? For you, Pablo, for example, well-being is
Well, my main
important.
idea, if you just focus on grades or achievements while in university and forget the other things, all the other aspects of your life, you can just like implode. I mean,
Perfect.
it's important to have a balance. So
your thesis will be to have a balance between grades, responsibilities, and sports and proper food,
yeah,
right?
and a healthy lifestyle, some
Perfect.
kind of.
Another thing you have to think when you are about to write is, who's your audience? Can you use contractions? For example, if you are going to write an academic essay.
It depends on the importance of the publication, but if it is academically important, I will not.
You wouldn't. Perfect. Yes, consider that for a formal setting, you shouldn't use contractions. And lastly, we would need to write. But in this case, try and write an introduction. If you want, you can work together with the idea that Pablo has. Would you help him?
Yes, sure.
So, write introduction.
Okay, so who starts?
This is the question. What are the most important factors for maintaining well-being in university life? And
so I could start something as university life can be tough. Can be stressful or tough.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The first advice I have for you is that when you start writing, you write whatever you think, right? Then in the next stage, in drafting and revising, you can change it.
Okay. So university life can be stressful. You need to make sure.
Yeah, I'd say that classes take up your time, and having tests also take up your anxiety to your life. So you need something to just decompress.
So classes take up your time. Exams get on your nerves.
Oh, yes.
You need
Energy. You need energy
Information
to
get
make
on
it
your
through the day.
brain.
sorry. You need energy and
To make it through the day.
you need energy to make it through the day. And Candela said something, but I couldn't get
I didn't
it.
hear that. I didn't hear.
Then that is a good introduction. And then you could use the factors that you consider are important to keep well-being, right? So for instance, Pablo talked about having good, healthy habits and doing sports.
So those would be like the first, but you also need something you can wait for during the week. At least that worked for me. For
Yes,
example, playing
motivation.
sport. Some people would like to I don't know, read a book or whatever, but something you're waiting for or you're thinking about
Like a
that is
motivation.
not your work. Like
A motivation, something that
Yeah.
motivates. Obviously, it's going to be different for every person. So you can say that the main factor for you is to have something that motivates you to get to the weekend, right?
yeah, or during the week, but painting, reading.
Isn't the word hobby for that? It's just
Or yeah,
something you
we
like.
could say a hobby.
Like doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall I write?
Yes,
Yeah, you're the design writer. No.
design writer.
So in order to keep a balanced lifestyle, you need to prioritize, or you need to ensure you have you have healthy habits or nutrition. Healthy
Or what?
habits and a hobby.
And a hobby.
A hobby.
Okay, well, so this would be a first draft of your introduction, right? You're explaining that university life can be stressful, classes take up your time, exams get on your nerves, you need energy to make it through the day. For example, I would put there a sentence about well-being is important from the psychological point of view, from the physical point of view, and the psychological, active, and health.
Yeah, even as a society member, you need to know.
To be,
it could be
to be in a
far-fetched,
well-being
but,
state.
well, yeah, if you work with peers and peers, I think it is, and you're not, and your well-being is not doing well, it could affect you in how you relate to other people. So even for that, I mean, it's an integral. I don't know the word.
Integral,
Like,
yes, you're talking about
yeah.
integrality.
Yeah, part of your life. I mean, it does affect us. We all know when we are just not right. Well, everything starts to. We tend to do things worse than we would. Well,
Totally.
well.
No, it's like that. So, perfect. That last sentence you wrote would be before, I would place it before the sentence, in order to keep a balanced lifestyle, you need to ensure you have healthy habits and a hobby. And that would be a first draft of the introduction. Now we are going to go back to the slides, and in your houses, you will revise that introduction written in the chat, and you will check if the introduction has the thesis clearly stated. If you use connectors or not, here you use one connector. If the text tone is formal or informal. And then, according to those findings, you will try and rewrite it again for next class, okay? Because it's important that every part of an essay includes the proper things. For example, in this case, the introduction should include the topic that we are talking about, university life and well-being, and to present the thesis statement that you just wrote it in that sentence. In the following classes, we are going to analyze how to write the body paragraphs and the conclusion. So the most important thing of all today is to understand that writing is a process and that it starts with this activity that we did. We gather ideas, we consider the tone of the writing, if it is formal or informal. It could also be semi-formal in this case. You organize the ideas according to what each of you thought that it was most important, and you started writing. The first thing you do is write, and then you draft and revise the draft, okay? So thank you all for your participation. It was quite meaningful, and see you next class.
Okay.
Thanks.
See ya.